evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. This is our November meeting. We are 1/11th through the year. We've got one more month to go. It seems like the year flew by pretty quickly. But we've got a lot on the agenda, and so we'll get started. We've got some dignitaries in the room, some of our wonderful state officials, some good friends, and so glad to have them in the room, and we'll get an opportunity to talk a little bit more about them as we go throughout the agenda. I'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. Council, you have your agenda in front of you. Are there any amendments to tonight's agenda? Staff?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, due to our elected officials being here under recognitions and presentations, Roman numeral number 3, item number 10, I'd like to give them a moment to make a presentation to us.
That would be item number 11, and we'll make recognition for Employee of the Month, item 12. Is that correct?
Mine is, let me bring you
Did
this
you
one.
change it?
The clerk has given me a different one than yours, apparently.
And we'll,
It would be item number 10.
mine still says item number 11.
So you want it after 11?
I want to make it item 11.
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I apologize. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so we're good. Council will, under our recognition presentations, we'll have a presentation from our state officials as item number 11.
And then item under new business, Roman number 4, what will now be item number 19 would be a reimbursement agreement.
He's adding it all together.
Wakefield project.
We add them in. Okay. Okay. Any other
No, sir.
adjustments?
Those are the only two.
Council, if you would, I'll accept the motion to amend our agenda with the 2 items, one under recognitions and one under new business. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor, with the amendments.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. So we will follow along our agenda. First item is our invocation. I'll ask Mr. Hinkle to give us an invocation, followed by our pledge.
If we may bow our heads for a few minutes or a minute, please. Oh Lord, please bless this meeting this evening and all in attendance, both in this room and online. Guide and direct this council to make wise decisions that represent the best interest of our town and are pleasing in your sight. Please bless our veterans as we thank them for their service in protecting our country. Make this Saturday, May the 11th, special in our hearts, now and for every year. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
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 I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
council, the next item on our agenda is our consent items. We've got 4 sets of minutes. We've got an approval for the Smith Village Amenity Center facade review, a food line review for elevation amendments, approval of the facade review for a property on the southwest side of South Main, as well as the amended Town of Troutman schedule of fees. We've got a couple of annexation requests, setting public hearings, one for Sunbeam Properties and one for Martin Ray Holdings. And that would be everything on our consent. Is there a motion to approve our consent?
I'll make a motion to approve our consent agenda.
Motion is made to approve the consent. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is recognitions and presentations. I will turn it over to Mr. Wyatt.
At this time, senators, House members, if you all would come up, please. And the microphone at the center is yours. For those in attendance that may not be familiar, we have Senator Vicky Sawyer, House Member Jeff McNeely, and Gray Mills, representing Iredell County, and Senator gets more than just Iredell.
No, I'll let you talk all day. It's a scary thing.
Well, I
when you
guess I
let
do
him talk.
the long or the short straw, depending on who wants to listen. So, anyway. Good to be here tonight with y'all. I will just start by saying that in the budget previous of this last one, we had hoped to get Troutman more, and we weren't able to. And I told many of you that y'all were our top priority, and you were in this budget that we just passed. And so we were able to acquire through different ways $14 million for the town of Troutman. And I know you'd like to probably have more, but that's a good start.
No, that's a very good start.
Yes.
That's a very good start. And we will continue to try to help in every way we can, because we realize that Troutman is, I don't think the word expanding covers it. Exploding maybe, in a way. And so there's great need for a lot of different infrastructure. And we realize that. And we want to try to get ahead of the wave that's coming, not be behind it after it washes everybody to shore. We're trying to get infrastructure in place in the water and sewer. Those are some of the things we can do. So we just want to let you know that we will continue to work with y'all, and our phones and our ears are always open. If you have anything, please let us know. Give us a holler. And thank y'all for the service y'all do and the great talent that you have here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we could get a picture with
Now,
all 3 elected officials and the council, then we'll have another presentation shortly. But I would also like to add, Representative Mitchell Setzer was unable to attend tonight due to being sick with the flu.
One, two, three.
Yes, sir. I gotta get where you are.
All
I
right.
don't have all the faces. Paul, can you go over to the right just a little? Helena, look up.
Good job.
It's going to be hard to get this through the drive-through, so I suggest you take it inside. Actually, it comes back home with me, but y'all keep the money. That's just as good. See, Ross, come up here and help me hold that other end. This thing's heavy. Yeah.
That's a lot.
14 million was a bunch.
Yeah, that's right.
Get up, everything. Thank y'all.
Thank you. You know, let's count 14 million better.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Thank y'all. Thank you, Greg. Thank you. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you.
Vicky, good to see you. Good to see you.
While they
14
exit,
million
I would
better.
like to say that we do appreciate all the support we got from our state officials in this last session. That was the largest appropriation for our town history, and again, they've done a great job in supporting us and hearing the concerns that we've had here in our town and the needs that continue to surface and grow for us. I appreciate the work of our town manager and our friends in Raleigh, and making sure they heard from us and understood the needs that we had. So again, appreciate that, Mr. White, as well.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add, thanks goes to council too. A lot of people in the audience and or viewing online, it's not just a matter of sending an email saying, hey, here's our dilemma. Thanks to you all as council for also visiting our elected officials, whether it be at the local events, one-on-ones, or down in Raleigh. Mr. Mayor, Councilman Harris, Councilman Now, for the numerous trips that we made to visit other legislators, not just the ones that know our plight, but to make sure that everybody understood. It was definitely a group effort to get that quantity of money, and thanks goes to you all as well.
The next item on our agenda would be our recognition of our Employee of the Month, and I'll turn over to Mr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a program we started this year just to recognize employees that excel in their duties. Employees can be nominated and or receive the award more than once. So far, it has been spread out as each month we seem to have something different that comes up about a different employee. It's just happened that way. It's not that the others haven't been performing well. It's just to recognize those employees that stood a little bit above what their job duties requirements are or the expectations are. And this month, as you all see on the screen, Lou Borick is our Employee of the Month. And I would just like to say his official job title is HR Director. However, we have kind of used him as an in-house IT guy. Our IT services are contracted. And a lot of times when we have issues, it could be simple to an IT person, but I will speak for myself. It might be simple in their world, but I just don't know why it don't work. I need somebody to fix it. And with us opening the Parks and Rec office to employees only at this point and trying to get it ready for the grand opening in the near future, we had a lot of IT needs there. And then with some office moving here within Town Hall, Lou has stepped up and went out of the way and foresaw some of the things that we would need and was very proactive in working with coworkers to ensure that all of our IT needs, especially the phone systems and our computers, were up and running. Again, to IP people, what we needed may have been very simple, but I, for one, can't handle them. So I appreciate him being available within minutes. We kicked him out of his office here downtown and moved him to the Passport location just so that he could have room. And he's driving his personal vehicle back and forth as we need things. He's never complained. He's never grumbled. And every employee, when we were discussing this, talked about how he always was very accommodating and wanting to know what else he could do before he would leave. not a have to, he volunteered to do it, and it sure made our operations run a whole lot more better and smooth. And at this time, Lou, if you would come up.
I'm making Debbie work tonight.
Well, one more. Let's see. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
My David Quote. You do have to smile a lot.
Yeah.
I know we say it on a regular basis, because we've got great employees who work for the town and our citizens, and Lou is always with a smile. Well, other than that Halloween thing, he's always here with a smile and been supportive. We appreciate the work he does, both from a HR perspective, human resources perspective, but also all the initiatives that Mr. Wyatt and the staff ask. I always say, and the other duties as assigned. So again, we appreciate you and thank you for what you do for our town. The next item on the agenda is a proclamation declaring November 18th, 2023 as Survivor of Suicide Loss Day. And I'll read the proclamation just briefly. Whereas suicide is a leading cause of death in the United States, in 2022, 49,449 people died with suicide. And nearly 50 of the people know someone who died by suicide in their lifetime. Whereas the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, the leading suicide research and prevention organization in the United States, invites those who have lost a loved one to suicide for a day of healing during International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day on Saturday, November 18th. Whereas Survivor Day is held on the Saturday before Thanksgiving each year, because the holiday is a very challenging time for people who have lost their loved ones to suicide. And whereas Survivor Day is a day in which survivors of suicide loss come together to find connection, understanding, and hope through their shared experience, and honor, celebrate, and remember those who died by suicide. And whereas the leaders of Iredell County recognize that suicide is preventable and no one should go through a suicide-related crisis alone, and are deeply committed to tackling the mental health challenges facing the residents of Iredell County. Whereas the commissioners and mayors join together to show their support for survivors of suicide loss, and whereby proclaim Saturday, November 18th as Survivor Day, and urge all residents to support survivors of loss and efforts to raise awareness about suicide prevention and mental health and wellness. This was signed on November 7th by our chairwoman, Melissa Nieder of the Iredell County Board of Commissioners, Mayor Miles Atkins of Mooresville, and Mayor Kosti Kute of Statesville, and myself. And we ask everyone in our community to remember those who are survivors of suicide, and if you have family members who are dealing with mental health challenges, we encourage you to seek help through our Iredell County Health Department, as well as any of our law enforcement officials who might be able to assist as well. The next item on our agenda is the new business items. And first is rezoning request, RZ 2307. The applicant is Peter and Chunbei Chinnao, 0.53 acres. The pin is 4731-777861, 427 North Main Street, on the west side of North Main Street from Town of Troutman Office Institution to Town of Troutman Central Business. I will now open this public hearing, and I will turn it over to Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of council, as you stated, this is a rezoning request. The applicants are Peter and Shunbei Shanone. They are also the property owners as well as the applicants. The property is currently zoned O and I, which is office institution. It is in the town of Troutman. They are requesting that the property be rezoned to CB, which is central business. This is a traditional rezoning, so no site plan was required as part of this application. The property is approximately half an acre in size. On your screen, there is a aerial photograph or a map that shows the property's location. It's highlighted in red. It's almost directly across the street from Town Hall, which is where we are right now. Just to give you an idea and kind of get your bearings of where that property is. This is a copy of our current zoning map. Everything there in the light green is OI, which is office institutional. You can see that the surrounding properties are also zoned OI, but there is some central business in the area as well. This is our future land use map, which is what we use when making land use decisions from a staff standpoint. This piece of property is shown as town center, as well as the adjoining properties. This was taken to the planning board last month. It was reviewed by the board, and they unanimously recommended approval as submitted. Staff is also recommending approval based on the fact that our future land use map that is located within the Troutman Strategic Plan recommends that the site and its environs be developed as town center. The requested zoning to CB is consistent with this land use definition, as well as the land use pattern in the area. This is the end of staff's presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those, and the applicant is here this evening as well.
Great. This is a rezoning request for this applicant, and any questions for staff? Any questions for the applicant? You're welcome to speak. You don't have to, but you're welcome to.
We have no questions there.
Okay. Council, we will now hear from the public. Anyone from the public would like to comment on this rezoning request? Okay. I will now close this public hearing. Council, you've heard from staff, and in your packet, the detailed information regarding this rezoning request. We will now consider ordinance 3523, titled an ordinance changing the zoning classification of the after described property from Town of Troutman Office Institution to Town of Troutman Central Business. Is there a motion regarding this request?
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We will now consider a statement of consistency. I would ask that you read the full statement. Is there a statement of consistency?
I will read that, Mr. Mayor. Action describing consistency example. Rezoning to central business is consistent with the 2035 future land use map and with the current land use pattern of the area. The request is consistent with the currently adopted Unified Development Ordinance. The request is reasonable and in the public interest as it proposes to allow commercial development in areas of Troutman where it is appropriate and encourages small-scale development in the town core.
Motion's on the floor regarding our statement of consistency. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, receive the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a text amendment request, TA 2310. It's a variances and special use permits. This was a staff-initiated request. I will now open this public hearing and turn it over to Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Both of the text amendments that we are hearing this evening have to do with our Board of Adjustment. Our Associate Planner, Andrew Ventruska, deals with that board, and he is bringing these text amendments to the council this evening. So if it is all right with you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Ventruska at this time.
Good evening, Board. I hope everybody's doing well tonight, enjoying the beautiful weather we've had the last few days. As Ms. Hare had mentioned, these two amendments are related to the Board of Adjustment. Each of them have two parts, so technically there's going to be 4 amendments, but I'm bringing them to you as 2. Staff is recommending these amendments, as Ms. Hare mentioned. We did bring these amendments to the Board of Adjustment at their October meeting, and the Board was fully behind these amendments, so the Board of Adjustment is on board. And being that the Board of Adjustment is highly regulated by NC General Statute 160D, I did touch base with our attorney to make sure these are legal, and our attorney verified they were. Okay, our first text amendment, TA 2310, we're looking at section 9.6.4A, variance. The way that our ordinance currently is a variance will expire 1 year after it is granted if a building permit is not issued. Staff is recommending removing this requirement as a variance is based on a hardship that runs with the land. It's specific and it's based on findings of fact. Therefore, we don't feel a variance should expire because it was granted based on a hardship with the property, not the property owner. And so that's the first part of this amendment. The second is very similar. This one is to do with special use permits. The way that our code reads is similar. The special use permit also expires within 1 year of approval if a building permit is not issued. Staff is recommending changing this 1 year to 2 years. And the reason we're recommending this is because a special use permit is based on a conditional plan. In our ordinance, the other approvals that are based on a conditional plan, such as a conditional rezoning or preliminary plat, expire in 2 years. So this is consistent with what we have with other approvals in our ordinance. And also it's very consistent with other jurisdictions throughout the state as research that I have done. So these are the 2 amendments we're looking for with TA 2310. And with that, I will open it up for any questions, and I'll also mention Planning Board also unanimously recommended approval.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Ventruska?
Andrew, if the variance is granted by the Board of Adjustment and the property owner or the applicant at that time does not act on it, they simply flip the property or just don't act on it. If that property does change hands, does that variance go away and the new property owner or applicant have to go through the process again, or does that variance carry through?
The variance goes with the property, so if the property's sold, the new owner can still develop the property to what the variance required. However, if they come in and they want to change, let's say they ask for a 5-foot setback variance, they want to make it a 10-foot setback, they would have to come back to the board because that variance has changed. But the actual approval will run with the property.
Will this affect any of the historically passed or granted variances?
Anything that's basically been approved in the last year, if it's a special use permit, it'll extend it an extra year. If it's a variance, it will just make it legal here until the property's either developed or somebody comes in for another request.
Right. So, for the sake of argument, I've got a variance that was granted 2 years ago. It expired a year ago under our current
That's right. Yep.
UDO. So how?
Well, that variance would have already expired, so
Right.
they would have to come back to the Board of Adjustment because that variance had expired prior to this text amendment going through.
So this applied to all variances?
That's right.
Unless a building plan was?
Building permit, correct.
Building permit, sorry.
Yeah.
Building permit was granted. So in cases of setbacks and such?
That's right.
Right, as long as they've broken
As long as they pull the permit through the county.
Other questions for Andrew?
The only thing I would like to add is, thank you for your work on this, sir.
Appreciate that.
Okay. All right, thank you, Andrew. Anyone here from the public like to comment on this text amendment request? I will now declare this public hearing closed. Council, you've heard from staff regarding this text amendment request. We will now consider ordinance 3623. Is there a motion regarding the ordinance?
I make the motion that we grant or we pass or adopt this change in the variance and special permit for case number T23-10 and the ordinance that you referenced.
Okay. Motion's on the floor to approve ordinance 3623, an ordinance amending the Town of Troutman Unified Development Ordinance. Is there a second?
I will second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We will now consider a statement of consistency, and I would ask that you read the full statement. Is there such a statement?
I make a motion regarding consistency of this action, that this text amendment is consistent with the 2018 strategic plan and the Unified Development Ordinance, in reasonable and in the public interest as it is consistent with NC 160D.
Motion's on the floor regarding our statement of consistency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, receive the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. The next item is also a text amendment, request TA 2311, Board of Adjustment decisions and noticing. This is a request initiated by staff. I will now open this public hearing and turn it over to Ms. Hare. Or Andrew.
Thank you, thank you. TA 2311, again, this is Board of Adjustment related. These two are strictly getting our ordinance in compliance with NCGS 160D. The first one is regarding the notices for Board of Adjustment. Our ordinance currently states that a notice shall be published once in a newspaper having general circulation at least 10 business days, but not more than 25 business days prior to the hearing. This is no longer a requirement of NC 160D, so we're asking that council remove this language. And then the second part of this is regarding decisions. The way that our ordinance reads is that a 4/5 vote is required for any decision that the Board of Adjustment makes. This is not consistent with the state statutes, as a 4/5 vote is only required for a variance. So a special use permit or a staff appeal or any other decision a Board of Adjustment makes is only a majority vote required. So this is just some cleanup to match the state statutes. Hopefully this is the last time we have to bring something for this cleanup, but this 160D stuff seems to rear its head every once in a while when we're going through the ordinance, so I can't promise that's the case. But with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Any questions for Andrew? So Andrew, in terms of notice, is there any notice requirement at all?
Yes, we are required to send a mailing to any property within 500 feet of the subject property within that same time frame.
Okay. Any other questions?
So will things no longer be posted then,
Um,
outside of the mailing?
We also put a sign on the property as well. So the only thing that's being eliminated is that newspaper requirement.
All right. If there are no other questions, council will open it up to the public. Anyone here from the public like to comment on this text amendment request? If not, I will now declare this public hearing closed. We will now consider ordinance 3723, titled an ordinance amending the Town of Troutman Unified Development Ordinance. Is there a motion regarding this ordinance?
I'm making a motion to approve 3723 ordinance.
Motion made, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made, received a couple of seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Is there a statement of consistency? And please read the full statement.
Okay, I'll make that. I make a motion regarding consistency of this action, that this text amendment is consistent with the 2018 strategic plan and the Unified Development Ordinance and reasonable and in the public interest as it is consistent with NC 160D.
Motion's on the floor regarding our statement of consistency. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. The next item is our Troutman Mobility Plan. I will now open this public hearing, and I will turn it back over to Mr. Ventresca.
Thanks again. Tonight we are looking for a motion to adopt our mobility plan, and I'll go through a brief presentation of the plan. I had sent out an email link to the council a couple weeks ago for you to review. Hope you all had a chance to look at it. I didn't want to print out a forest full of papers for all of you to review, so I hope you had a chance to look at it, and I'll hit some of the key points on that plan. The agenda tonight, we're going to look at the history of the plan. We're going to look at some intersections, some focus areas, how this relates to state and regional plans, other recommendations, and then our next steps. History. The current Troutman Comprehensive Transportation Plan was adopted in 2009. One thing I want to point out about that plan is that in 2030, it projected the population of Troutman to be 2,900 people. Well, as of right now, the estimate population is over 5,000. So what that means is the plan is outdated. Also, we are seeing a lot of residential growth, which probably is the reason why that plan is outdated. Another thing I wanted to point out is that STIP project R2522, which is our Main Street widening project, I think we've discussed this a lot, but it really deserves to be brought up again. The funding has been stripped, so that's another reason we wanted to do this plan, to kind of look at some legitimate alternatives to that project. Background, CARTPO, they offer discretionary funding once a year. There's a small percentage that goes towards planning projects, which this project was. The town of Troutman was awarded $120,000 in 2022. We did provide a 20% local match. The process officially started in January of this year. Being that it's November and we're looking to wrap it up, I'm pretty pleased with the progress of this plan. The bike ped plan that I brought in front of you back in April will be incorporated in this plan. We did have 2 public input surveys. These were both online. One was in April and one was in September. And we did set up a booth at the Spring Craft Expo at the South Iredell High School back in April to elicit some more public comment. The purpose of this plan, we're looking at small-scale improvements to the major thoroughfares. We want to make them basically realistic and affordable. Mainly looking at some intersections. I'll show you some focus areas we've looked at. We had 2 realignments of potential roadways. There are some grant opportunities, and then it also touches base on some regional plans. Okay, first step, key intersections. We did look at 10 intersections for review. 3 of these intersections were selected for designs and cost estimates. These 3 intersections were US 21, Old Mountain Road, Murdoch Road, US 21 and Old Murdoch Road, and then US 21 and Church Street. We did have the 7 other intersections. We do have some high-level recommendations on those too. As you'll probably remember from the agenda briefing last month, I did bring forward the US 21 Old Mountain Road, Murdoch Road plan, and we did decide to move forward to try to get some discretionary funding for that project. Again, this is the first one, the intersection I just referenced. This was all brought up last month. I'm just showing what the plan says. Adding a couple auxiliary through lanes on Main Street, realigning Old Mountain Road with Murdoch Road, and adding some turn lanes, increasing the pedestrian crossings with some signal heads and some high visibility crosswalks, and also removing that right-hand slip lane from Old Mountain Road onto US 21. The Old Murdoch Road US 21 or Main Street project. This one is basically at this time just adding a left-hand turn lane from Old Murdoch Road onto 21. Also adding a couple crosswalks. potentially closing some driveway to limit the curb cuts on Main Street. And it also mentions, and I think this was part of a plan previously, extending the Lytton Street Road up towards Goodman Street. Again, this was the Main Street Old Murdoch Road project. The last one that we had high-level detail on was US 21 Church Street. This is basically restricting left-hand turn lanes onto Church Street during peak hours, having a barrier basically closing off Church Street going to the east and dispersing traffic on Eastway to either Rumpel or Morgan Streets, upgrading the greenway we have through that section, and adding some warning signs. The reason for this one is basically we've got 3 intersections here in a short period of time, so it can get kind of congested at peak hour times. So again, these are suggestions, they're not anything that we have to follow. The other intersections we looked at a higher level, we have Old Mountain Road, East Mambo Road, Main Street and Talley Road, 21 in Autumn Leaf and Perth, 21 Lexus Drive, Garden Center Drive, that's down by the Lowe's off exit 42, US 21 and Rumpel Street, and then US 21 Flower House Loop. And that's on the southern end, as the northern end is funded from DOT to realign with Houston Road. And again, I won't go through all these, but these are the kind of recommendations we have. Adding turn lanes, multi-use paths. This is kind of what we've had for all 7 of those intersections. Focus areas. We did look at 3 separate focus areas as we figure they either are growing rapidly or they're going to grow rapidly. The first one here is the Barium Springs area. And what this does, it just takes a deeper look at the area and it recommends some improvements to the area to increase the traffic flow. And again, there's quite a few recommendations. I'm not going to go through them all, but they are in the plan and they're there for you to look at. The second one was Autumn Leaf Road. As we know, we've got quite a bit of subdivision development on Autumn Leaf. Same thing, we're just some suggestions of what to do on Autumn Leaf Road to future help the traffic flow. This is where one of the potential new roadway realignments lies. You'll see here in the red dotted line was what was previously called the Southwest Bypass. This was to go from Barkdale Road to the curve in Autumn Leaf Road. Well, this is not feasible anymore as the Falls Cove subdivision is being built right here. That would go right through the middle of that subdivision. So what we're looking at doing is removing that red line, and then what you see this line in blue, it's basically the same thing. It comes in from Barkdale Road, and it would connect north of Falls Cove subdivision into Autumn Leaf Road, and we're just going to rename that the Autumn Leaf Connector. I believe bypass was kind of a negative connotation back in the day, and this is not really meant as a bypass. The third area we looked at was exit 42, and this is probably common sense. This is where the commercial node for the town is going to grow. And again, it just makes some recommendations. We do have some roadways that run parallel to 21 on both sides that will help alleviate traffic traveling the main road. Hopefully they'll use those interroads when the shopping centers do build. We did have our second potential roadway realignment here. This road again in red, they called it the Pilch Road Extension, and this goes from basically 21 all the way up to Pilch Road. This was more of a county project, but as this portion was in Troutman, we did look at it, and you can see the red line goes right through the Lowe's planogram facility. Well, that kind of makes it not really feasible. So what we're planning on doing, or we're recommending to do, is move that to this blue line, which is down here. We anticipate a stoplight at this intersection near the new soon-to-be Food Lion, and this would basically do the same thing. It would just take a more southeasterly path, but eventually connecting up to Pilch Road up near Oswald Amity Road. And these are future. There's no funding on those. The town doesn't go out looking to build roadways. Both of these connectors are just there if a developer comes in. At the very least, we can have them reserve the right-of-way so we don't run into another situation like we did with Falls Cove. State and regional plan recommendations. Okay, this is where it can kind of get transportation planning nerdy with the acronyms, so I'm going to make it as simple as possible. Metropolitan Transportation Plan is basically the document that our MPO uses to send projects to the state to be ranked for funding. These projects you see on this list here are what we're recommending to add to that MTP. The MTP is fiscally constrained, and it does have to compete with other projects, but the more we add, the better chance we have of projects being actually sent to the state. Now, as we know, the state's funding, if they'll get funded, when they'll get funded, that's a different question. But at least we're prepared to submit the projects. And then the second part is the comprehensive transportation plan. This is again through the MPO. This is the first step prior to the MTP. This is where we just submit any old project we want. It's kind of a wish list, so to speak. It gets added into the CARTPO's comprehensive transportation plans, and then these projects are eligible to be bumped up into that MTP plan. So what you see on your screen right here is what we're recommending adding to the CTP. And then I'm briefly going to touch base on some other recommendations in the plan. The plan does touch base on coordination, and that's not only with the NCDOT and the CARTPO staff, it's also with our surrounding jurisdictions, whether it be the county or Mooresville or Statesville. Just because there's a project, the logical termini doesn't necessarily end at the planning boundary. It probably extends into Mooresville or Statesville, so it's good to coordinate with those jurisdictions to make something that's logical. Again, relationship to other plans, while the 2009 plan is outdated, it still has some very good pieces to it, such as right-of-way recognition. So I think it's good to just keep those plans and our strategic plan we have, just make sure everything's coherent. TIAs, it recommends potentially updating our TIA process. As we've mentioned to the board before, we are working with a consultant, hope to bring on board to kind of work on those things for us. So we're very fortunate to have that, and glad the plan does touch base on that. The plan does touch base on some funding sources, most being federal grants. So that's something that we can definitely use a plan to look more into. And then the last thing is just to monitor and update and keep in touch with the times as funding pots and things change. Next steps. This is my last slide. Next steps, hopefully we have adoption by the council tonight, and then it will be on staff and the town to implement the plan. And with that, I'll say thank you, and I'll open it up for questions. But I do want to say that I do appreciate the work of the consultant we had in this project, RS&H, particularly Erin Musial, who worked hand in hand with myself. She basically put this plan together, and I just had to shake my head and say, yep, that looks good. Yep, that looks good. So I do appreciate the work they put into this. And I'll open it up for any questions.
Any questions for Andrew?
I just had one question. Can you go back to the connector?
Yeah. Which one? This one?
Not that one. The one
Autumn leaf?
before that one.
Mhm.
What road does that go out to?
This is right here is Main Street. Here's that Oswald Amity Barkdale light. The road would continue from Barkdale, go south of that Rocky Creek subdivision, and then come back into Autumn Leaf. And again, this is just a line on a map. No studies, no particular corridor has been done. It's just more a line on the map just to show that, okay, this is a potential future roadway.
Other questions for Andrew?
Excellent work, Andrew.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, I have to tip my hat to the consultant because other than being here tonight, they did most of the work.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
But you've been doing a lot of work preparing all this with them.
Great.
And like I said, we got the one kind of into the process of getting monies.
Right.
The first ones, that's good.
Great. If not, no other question for Andrew. We will open this up for any public comment regarding the Troutman Mobility Plan.
My name is Cass Carbo. I just have one question, and that is,
Cass, please.
if you've got a line on a map and someone comes in and wants to build a subdivision, are you saying that the area that has the line on the map is now going to be set aside for a right-of-way in order for that subdivision to be approved? Because it hasn't been engineered yet, but I'm just wondering. Okay, so you're ahead of the curve on the development now, whereas in the past, we were behind the curve.
Yeah, I think that the thought here is that we've, so this wouldn't be our first plan, but we've got multiple plans that are out there, and roadways that are planned, if you will, that are out there. This gives us an opportunity, I think, as Mr. Van Tresca was stating, for us to have that, the plan to be informative for that developer to say, hey, before you want to put that development there, the town is planning to have a road in that area.
Well, I just want to say, I think you're doing an excellent job in getting ahead. That's where we've kind of stubbed our toe in the past, is we've allowed all these areas to develop, but we haven't made them set aside enough right-of-ways for the traffic patterns. Does that make sense to you?
Thank you for your feedback, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Any other question or comment? Okay. Great. I will now close this public hearing. Council, you've heard from staff as well as the public regarding the mobility plan. Any question or comment before we consider adoption? Is there a motion regarding the Troutman mobility plan?
We'll make that motion to approve the Troutman mobility plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Again, thank you, Andrew. Again, this really helps us as we continue to develop our town and understanding our roadways and going forward. So again, thank you. And please thank the third-party consultant as well. So thank you for that. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of ordinance 3823. I will now turn it over to Mr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As our town attorney advised Monday, we did have an existing policy, but due to statute changes in North Carolina, he has proposed language to you all to update our policy.
Okay. Is there any questions for Mr. Wyatt? Okay. We will now consider ordinance, approval of ordinance 3823, titled Ordinance Authorizing Infrastructure Development Reimbursement Agreements. As we have talked about in prior conversations, council, is there a motion regarding this ordinance?
Mayor, I will make the motion then that we adopt ordinance 3823 covering infrastructure development reimbursement agreements.
Motion's on the floor to approve the ordinance. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the infrastructure reimbursement agreement. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. This is an updated version of a document I had emailed earlier with you all, town staff and town attorney. If you see there, the town attorney, other than some minor verbiage that he would like to clean up with the representative's legal, or the requester's legal counsel, the one big area that we had discussed during emails was there some verbiage in there about sewer capacity originally. That has been omitted and is no longer there. The other part of the thing that I would like to clarify, our email chain got lengthy with questions, and the town attorney and I trying to advise and be clear. I think I made it more cloudy, and I apologize for that. But in this agreement, the petitioner, Wakefield, would be doing the internal infrastructure in the facility. Our intent as a town on the reimbursement agreement is that we would like to increase the size of certain infrastructure that's there. That, of course, because it's not necessary for the development, would be a cost that the town would need to bear. The estimations are included in your packet at this time, but as we have experienced COVID, even though we have a general estimation now, we cannot predict exactly what the future will be. One of the questions that our legal counsel had was this does bind the town if we agree that we want to upsize those lines. It does buy the town to an undetermined number. However, the estimated project is included in there, would be in the $4 to $5 million range at this time. I would recommend, if you all have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those. But in our town's interest and growth and the infrastructure of the sewer lines in particular, I do recommend that we go with this. Again, understanding our attorney and their attorney would need to clean up any finer points of language that he would recommend.
Okay. My question would be, as I was reading it today, I can't find it right now, but it was talking about what we would do is reimbursement through the sewer taps and stuff, on that project. And that'll happen after the project's done.
That
How
is
do we, and it said up to the $4 million that was going that way. So how do we make sure we can keep control of that?
Just like our last reimbursement agreements with developers in similar circumstances, we get an itemized list of the work as they install the product, so we know what the number is as soon as the work is done. And as the project then goes to where they start doing the tap fees and those, then we just minus it from the amount that we owe the developer.
Okay, because I was just thinking about, we get the money now, but we got to hold some back until they get done with that project and until they start doing development.
Well, with the way it works with DEQ and our parameters that we have set up through our engineer and their state parameters, the time frame on it typically with how fast a developer is wanting to do the infrastructure piece of this.
So it'll probably match up then. is what you're saying.
Well, they probably will be done before we normally would have been done in a different process.
Yeah, I agreed with the idea that having them do it we'll get more bang for our buck.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Under the agreement that was just handed to us, that part about availability fees and taps is out.
It's
It's just cash.
just cash. So that's not in there at all, that I just saw. Yeah. Yeah, I was looking, I couldn't find it. That's why my specific question was, how do we track that piece to pay that $4 million back?
Basically, they would provide it, they'd give us a bill, and we would pay them in cash,
Okay.
cash or a check.
So,
Okay,
okay, I
you're
see it
saying
now, we're
it's out.
requiring the cash
Pardon?
agreements.
You're saying it's out, what do you mean it's out?
The part where they would get credit for taps and availability fees, I don't see that in here.
Yeah,
They
just
simply
cash.
they'd give us a bill and we'd write them a check.
Is
Up
it
to
something
$4
we're gonna
million.
clean up then?
Pardon?
Is it something we're gonna clean up in the legalese
That
that, the town manager is referring to?
Yeah, on page 4, the fourth page.
Depends on what the agreement is.
As they put in the taps, they will let us know, and we will,
It's almost a straight deal. They do the work, they send us a bill, and we pay them up to $4 million. That's what's in here.
gonna be my next question. That was another concern. We're talking a max of $4 million?
That's what it says.
Not
Yes.
to exceed $4 million, right, Gary?
Yeah, look on page 4.
So
So it's almost just straight
Fourth page.
contractor, owner. They do the work, they send us a bill, we pay them money.
So as you say, then the taps and availability
That was
fees
my
are
question.
no longer necessary. It's just a straight,
Yeah, they would still have to pay the town for taps and availability fees.
okay.
And that was my question, on how do we manage that piece of it? When I was reading it earlier, it was like, it looked like it had been kind of stretched out further than way past this project. But I like this.
Would the bill that we receive be itemized?
That's what I think
Yes.
it says that. I mean, I'm just reading it as as y'all are.
As the attorney's reading, we also have a representative from the developer here. If Mr. Coble would come up.
Says each application for payment shall itemize the elements of infrastructure that have been completed. So itemize at least what's been completed, doesn't say the specific cost.
Mr. Coble?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, how
David
are you?
Coble, I'm here on behalf of Prestige Development, and I do want it on the record, I did not wear this shirt to curry favor with you, Mr. Mayor, just so you
Okay,
know, all right?
okay,
But go Niners.
understood.
The original agreement we were looking at, and I know there's been a lot of versions going back and forth. The agreement that we were looking at was reimbursement through tap fees. There would mean no actual outlay of cash from you to us. It would be a tap-free credit, which is allowed underneath the North Carolina general statute. So the way the $4 million came in originally, when as part of that $14 million that Representative McNeely and Senator Sawyer and Senator Mills are here talking about today, there was 10 in water and sewer infrastructure straight money, and then there was a project-specific line item for the Wakefield project. And so per the request of the town manager, that was amended to be just a full $14 million in water and infrastructure to you all to be, allocated as you saw fit for actual outlays of money. What we were going to do is, because there are, time constraints involved and the outlays of that money works with DEQ, we decided to go the route of just a straight reimbursement agreement for the upfit of the line through tap fees, tap fee credits. So there would be actually no outlay of cash from you all. So if we can make that update to not be an outlay of cash, but just a reimbursement on tap fees, that's much cleaner process and a sort of a more general rule of thumb of how these things are normally done. And I do apologize if that got taken out. There was a lot of versions and updates going back and forth.
Okay, so tap and availability or just tap fees are back in?
Tap fees. So every time, so basically whenever we come online, and the town manager can keep me honest here, whenever we bring units online and run the water into it, we pay a tap fee to the town of Troutman. That would just be credited back to us as part of this reimbursement agreement for the upfit of the line. And we still provide the itemized bills. Everything like that is still tick and tied based off of the cost of the structure and the work, itemized, all those kind of things.
Again, we are talking up to a max of $4 million liability. On the part of the town or what,
So no, we're talking about the cost of the line. That could exceed $4 million. That might be less, but because there's not an outlay of cash of $4 million, and the number of associated with the tap fees that Wakefield will be bringing is far in excess of that. So there should not be an instance where, the line can only go so much, right? And so it was for the full amount, but the estimated cost of that is $4 million. But it would be for the full cost of the upfit, not the full line, just the upfit. Yes, sir.
And just to reiterate that part of it, without the project being begun and the materials bought, we cannot predict accurately if we have another COVID instance and they have a surcharge immediately. Based off of today's pricing and general expected increases, it should be less than $4 million. But the verbiage needs to be in there if you also approve. We need the upfit of the line regardless of what the materials cost is. So it certainly could exceed $4 million, but at this point it's actually slightly under.
So we've got a couple of items that I guess we need to have Gary work through with Mr. Coble's attorney to try to correct, because so the cap is still in here. We're saying that comes out. Going back to the tap fee component comes out, the upfit part of that. So if we're going to approve it, it's going to be,
I can't advise you from a legal standpoint to approve anything when we don't really know what the agreement is. It needs to be in writing before you approve it.
Right.
Yeah, and we could work with the town attorney on adding that additional language back in.
Get that language back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is for us to adopt this ordinance, if we don't adopt anything tonight, and I know the town manager had indicated some sense of urgency to this, with next meeting, waiting until our next month's meeting.
That's perfectly acceptable. Because we want this to be tick and tied to your comfort,
Well,
and
I
so.
agree 100% with,
Yeah, no, I
and our
agree
attorney,
100%
of course,
with the town attorney as well,
I
yeah.
have it in writing, I feel much better.
I agree with you 100%.
Okay. All right. Great.
Thank you all.
So
Thank you, council.
We need a motion to table?
It's not necessary. We
yeah,
can
there
put
was
it
never
back
a
on the
motion.
agenda. Officially, it'll be listed in the clerk's report as no action.
All right, we will move on to item 5 under public comment, and the public is invited to address the council with comments or concerns. The public is limited to 3 minutes, no more than 3 minutes per individual. Speakers are required to sign in at the podium and adhere to Troutman Policy 51, titled Governing Comments from the Public. Comments are to be made to council, and we will open it up. Anyone here from the public like to comment to the council? Please state your name and sign in.
My name is Troutman. You say my first name right?
Yes, I did not.
Your
I
Chinese
skipped it.
better than your Italian.
Yes,
The
yeah,
last
absolutely.
name is
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to thank you, everybody, for approve the rezoning, and especially thank you to Mr. Andrew and Miss Lynn. They have been very helpful every time I stop by the office. Every time I send them emails with questions, I always get the answer right away.
Right.
So I'm very appreciative.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Support. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you have a grand opening?
Grand opening next Saturday. Everybody welcome.
Okay.
And Mr.
Great.
Mayor will be there, right? Do
Thank
the
you.
ribbon cutting?
Yes.
Our honor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Kim, do you mind sending a note out to the council regarding the ribbon cutting? Any other comments from the public to the council? All right, I will move on to elected official reports and comments. I will start with council members. Start with Mr. Harris.
Okay, well, I'd just like to first thank Councilman Now and candidate Nick Drosiski for their successful campaigns. And then I'd also like to thank our senator and our representatives for being here tonight and let me at least leave $14 million better than I came into this council. And so that made me feel good. Well, it's sad I'm leaving. I feel like I hope I've made a difference while I've been here. And I'll be back one more month as I start at the beginning of the meeting and hand it over. But and there's still a little outside thing that I may be back longer. So anyhow, that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Ms. Harris.
Well, my road partner is leaving me, but thank you, George. I wanted to just say a couple of things. It was so good to see everybody out at the Trails of Treats. We did say that on Monday, but just here openly in case no one heard it on Monday, it was just great to see everybody. I stood at the Troutman tent for a while, and it was just good to see people in good spirits and happy and enjoying themselves. Also, happy Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving will be here before our next meeting. So hope everybody enjoys themselves, travel safely, and eats a lot of food. If what you don't eat, you can bring it back to council if we have a long meeting. I'm just kidding. But anyway, have a safe and enjoyable Thanksgiving. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Mr. Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, number one, I'd like to wish all the veterans a happy Veterans Day on Saturday. Without them, we would not have the freedom that we have. So a special recognition out to them. I'd like to thank all the voters that came out and had their voices heard. And congratulations to the mayor for getting reelected and serving our great town. And I'd like to wish all the residents a happy and healthy Thanksgiving. And then also last, I'd like to thank our entire staff because that's what was out there at the Trails and Treats and the Parks and Recreation. Everybody chipped in and made Halloween very successful for the children and the families of Troutman and the surrounding towns. So thank you, Emily and your staff, and Town Manager Wyatt, for bringing everybody together and doing a great job.
Mr. Oxer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to wish everyone a happy Veterans Day. Thank you to all those that served. To steal Town Manager's thunder, we have another holiday coming up, don't we? I'll leave it to you. Right. But I would like to acknowledge all the staff on the events that we've had, the responses that we've had, and some issues that come up in our town. I would like to specifically point out the police department, the fantastic work that they have been doing recently. I know a lot of it's not on the airwaves, but that's part of doing what they're supposed to do. So I just would like to acknowledge Chief and the full force for excellent work and the long hours that you and your men are putting in, and women are putting in. So, but yeah, I do wish everyone a good start to the holiday season coming up. Go Lions! All right, so it's our Super Bowl, right? So, but yeah, I do wish everyone had a good time with all their family and friends this holiday. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Hinkle?
Well, as usual, I'm going to say kudos to all I've heard, and thank you for going ahead and saying it, and that way I don't have to repeat it myself, and I can save some breath that way. But I do want to point out, in light of the $14 million that we ceremonially and in fact have received and will receive, that was the result of our town manager, our mayor, and two council individuals, council members, Eddie Now and George Harris. And I want the public to know that, and we appreciate it. And it saves a lot of money for a lot of people in property taxes for things that have to be done when these gentlemen went out of their way to do what they did, and hopefully in the future we can do it again. But they did it now, and again, we're $14 million better. And I just want the public to know that, whatever they think, we're hard at work here, and these individuals, in this particular case, made a big difference that will be with us for years. And I hope the town stops each and every one, each of you four, and thanks you personally for doing what you have done in this case, and for everything else that you have done and are doing. And I will end with that.
Thank you. So a number of things I think I would agree with council on, but I'll start with Mr. Harris. Again, thank you for your continued service to this town. Yeah, maybe there's an opportunity there. We would hope maybe there's a chance, but in either way, again, you've done a great job, and we appreciate your support of this town. You've been a caring council member, and really have taken some time to really dig deep in a lot of issues. One of those being, the $14 million that Councilman Hinkle mentioned. And again, appreciate your time and efforts there, but also transportation and trying to understand the transportation issues for our town. That they are not easy to understand. A lot of people don't fully understand them. And again, I think you've done a great job in representing us at CRTPO and supporting Andrew and the team there. So again, thank you for that. I appreciate, like everyone has said, the events that have occurred these last few weeks with the Wicked Fast 5K and the Halloween Trails and Treats event, the costume exchange. Again, I think these are all great opportunities for our town to support our citizens, and it really provides a character for our town. And so, again, I appreciate the staff for taking time out of their personal their personal time to do these things. It's a small staff. And again, I do hope the citizens understand that a lot of the events that we have here in Troutman, our staff are putting those on. Unlike some of the larger communities, it's not other community organizations that solely put them on, but our small staff. And again, we appreciate all that you do every day. As Mr. Now mentioned, it will be Veterans Day celebrations on Saturday as well. Again, I wish all of our veterans, thank them for their service and what they've done for our country and continue to do in support of our active military as well. So if you know a veteran, please thank them for their service. This will be important, to them, not just today, but every day. So thank them for that. I do want to just comment real quickly on Andrew's mobility plan that he presented. Mr. Cass had a comment. I would say again, as Andrew presented that, these are all plans that the town has had, and we continue to elevate and update our plans. We've got a great staff like Lynn and Andrew who work on transportation. These folks don't sit around and just go, okay, let it happen. It's a partnership. Andrew went through some of the comments that, it takes partnerships with Statesville, with Mooresville, with the state, and to a great extent with federal. And so I'd like for folks to understand, as we were kind of on the campaign trail, if you will, these last few weeks, had a lot of conversations with folks on about our transportation in our city, and clearly it's one of those where, again, if you look at all the acronyms as Andrew was going through them, you start to understand how complex and difficult it can be. And so again, I want to say I appreciate what the staff does and have been doing to ensure that we are not just waiting for something to happen, but we're trying to get in front of that as best we can. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Wyatt and the staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, we'll go to Public Works Director, Austin Wall first.
All right, thank you. Try not to bore you with as long of information as last month. Louder? I'm sorry. Try not to bore you. This month we installed a new submersible pump and rebuilt a centrifugal pump at Streamwood Pump Station, as well installed a rebuilt submersible pump at Tech Drive Pump Station. We began reducing excess wires and cleaning up the control panels at Tech Drive, Mill Village, Rimmer Farm, and Iredell Avenue pump stations. Began the process of applying for a grant for erosion issues at several of our right-of-ways. Repaired water leaks on Patterson Street, Candace Lane, and Georgie Street. Installed various irrigation taps as well as water and sewer tap for a new home. Installed the new crosswalk flashing beacons on Wagner Street, Eastway Drive, and Old Mountain Road. Installed some new no outlet signs at the Sutter's Mill subdivision. Repaired a sinkhole next to a storm drain on Autumn Frost. Serviced various town vehicles from oil changes to installing bump stops on a utility truck to help in hauling heavy equipment. Graded and repaired crossing on Tech Drive right-of-way. Repaired several bollards on the greenway. Trimmed the juniper on the greenway. Also aerated and sowed the greenway from Rumpel Street towards Barium. Installed another 109 new meters and countless 811 locates. Thank you.
All right, for the finance department, I was hoping we'd have an audit presentation tonight, but they're still working on writing up our financials. So hopefully next month they'll be here to present our audit report. We've done everything as staff, submitted that to them, but it's like we've talked about, months back. There's a shortage of firms that are doing audits for governmental entities now, so when you have a good firm that does a lot, you know, they have to take it in stages. So anyway, so that's the reason for the delay on that. We're working on our beginning stages, getting our new financial software that you all approved a while back, and so we've had a few calls. We have a call scheduled for next week on that. We'll also have our new meter reading software. I believe it's going live next week. So Kimberly's working with Public Works employees in that process, so that will help streamline and make it more efficient when they do, you know, their monthly readings. Me personally, we've had our OPEB report that we just submitted off today, and then we've got our Power Bill report coming up. But that's due December 1st, so I'll be working on that next week. And then the only other thing I have is it's Jessica's birthday tomorrow, so happy early birthday, Jessica.
Happy birthday.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I want to go back to Austin. Thank you so much for those flashing walkway lights. I can't even say it right, but but thank you so much. We had talked about that a few weeks ago, and they're already up there. The town appreciates that, and also the speed humps. I don't know if the town did the speed humps or who on this road right here. Yes, that's awesome. Slow this traffic down on this road right here.
Interesting, I had a person tell me the other day, I'll believe it when I see them. The next day, they're in front of his house. But I didn't hear back from him yet.
I've heard from him. He is very thankful. So.
Okay, for the Parks and Recreation Department, the past month we've been busy getting settled in our new facility. We're grateful for the space to store our supplies and equipment and the office space for employees. So come see us. We're on the right-hand side of the entrance into the park. So we're happy to be getting settled in there. We hosted a car seat safety check with Safe Kids of Iredell County Tuesday. We had a great turnout for that. So there's obviously a great need for that in our community. Today we had the 3rd grade field trip, and that was a success. It's always a lot of fun in our community to hear their questions and to hear their feedback and see their excitement around things, see what they get excited about. So it's fun that we've kept that tradition alive over the years. Those things are easy to fall off when we get busy, but I'm glad that we make that a priority because it matters, and I'm glad that we've been able to keep that going. Just to reiterate about Trails and Treats and all the events we've had this fall, thank you to everybody that's supported that because, like you said, it does take all of us. This year for Trails and Treats, I'm positive was our biggest one yet, and even with the Parks and Recreation Department, every last one of them was in the parking lot just trying to get people parked. So it takes the rest of these guys coming out and helping, and even council, those of you who came and supported, thank you. That meant a lot too. So let's see. All right, for upcoming programs, we've got the Christmas tree lighting on the 30th of November. So come out and join us on that one, 6 p.m. at the park. Mayor, I'm hopeful that you'll do your thing that night. I hadn't had a chance to get with you on that, but yep. This is a good time as any. So if you're available, please put that on your calendar. We've got the elementary school, the high school, and the charter school going to perform that night. So that'll be fun. Of course, Santa will be there. And the Ruritan Club of Troutman is going to provide all the snacks. So we're thankful for them for that. The Jingle Run 5K is on the 10th of December, 3 o'clock here at Town Hall. The Christmas Parade is on Saturday, December 2nd, 11 o'clock. Same route as always, down Eastway Drive. We're accepting toys for the Marine Corps' Toys for Tots program. We've got our bins up here at Town Hall, so if you're wanting to go ahead and bring your donation prior to the parade, we've got the boxes out here. You're welcome to do that. On November 18th, we're hosting a lacrosse camp in partnership with the Impact Football Club down in the park. So if you want to call me, I could give you more information. We also have information on our Facebook page. And we're also going live with some new software in the coming weeks. Also been working with Dick's Sporting Goods on a grant that we received. You all will remember we came before you with that. So we did receive our funding. So you'll see all new soccer goals in the park. Those will be up soon once we get them assembled. And then bleachers and bat racks in the ball fields, in the dugouts. And that's all I have. Councilman Harris, I want to thank you for, I've enjoyed serving with you, and thank you for supporting recreation.
Thank you a lot.
Emily, how did the exchange go with the costume exchange?
Everything was gone within an hour.
Are you serious?
Oh, great.
It was a huge
That's
hit.
awesome.
It was awesome. So I was honored to be a part of it with Rotary. They were a huge help, huge support. So we've already got plans for next year, how we can make it bigger and better.
One thing, just to add emphasis to that program, Rotary approached Emily with it and said, why not try it? There was several families that, if we could share their stories publicly, would be very impactful. But one in particular, without mentioning names, a grandmother who had a lot of custody of most of her grandchildren, and really was not means to be able to take them trick-or-treating, and she was able to bring and get 6 costumes, in her word, that made her children feel worthwhile. But that was just one example. There were several that day that some literally cried because that opportunity was there. So I don't want to add thunder to what Emily and the Rotary Club did, but it was amazing to see some of the smiles on the children's faces, but especially the guardians or parents that could not afford to do it. And that has spun off into another collection program that will be forthcoming.
Posted it yesterday. I was going to tell about it, but then my report would be too long. So a couple moms groups in town, after they saw our Halloween collection for the costumes, reached out and came over and met with me on Tuesday after our Rotary meeting. They presented the idea for a toy exchange, so the Christmas wouldn't be so expensive for families maybe that couldn't afford it. To a child that has a new to them toy, they don't know whether it came off the shelf or came from someone else. They may not know, but the average family spends over $600 a year on toys. So they came and presented, would we be willing to collect used toys and do a similar concept for Christmas with toys? And so I said, let me think about it. How can we? So we're doing that, working out the details, but we are going to do that.
Emily, just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
How did the food drive go with the Rotary Club for the Trails and Treats?
We've collected over 750 pounds of food to deliver to Feed NC.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank Rotary also, too, please.
Yes, sir.
At Planning and Zoning, we get a lot of questions about new development, what's going on in the town. So we try to keep people up to date, but most of you already know the Dollar General, the new one down on at exit 42, is CO'd and opened. I think they've been open for a couple weeks. They were in a big hurry to get that done, so we are excited to be able to work with them and get that taken care of. The new food line is moving forward. I think we're going to see some dirt moving down there pretty soon, so that's an exciting project. We've been, Andrew and I've had several meetings with the Wakefield Village Group. They have plans that we have seen for the retirement village side. We've also talked to the group who is looking to do the apartments as well as the single family on the east side. So we expect to see some things happening there and some plans submitted. We've actually had an official submittal on the apartments, a concept plan submittal. So that is happening, so that's exciting to see. We've been working with them a lot on their trail system. Prestige is going to be responsible for building those trails and the portions of our greenway, so we just are trying to get all those details ironed out before these developments come to us, because that's something that needs to happen, and I believe there's some very specific language in those conditions about when that happens. So we're keeping on top of that and making sure we get those trails built. I just wanted to thank Andrew, too, for his hard work on the mobility plan. I personally feel very fortunate to work with someone with his expertise in transportation, and the town's very fortunate to have that expertise. So I just wanted to say kudos on the plan. He's done a great job. And he's also mentioned, I know we talked about this at the last meeting that he did, and he's very humble, but he had a meeting this afternoon, too, with the POC, and they are working towards hopefully securing some grant funds for us for the project up here at Old Mountain Highway 21 and Murdoch Road, which is one of the plans and intersections he showed you in the plan tonight. So as he said, we're already putting that plan to work, so that's good use of funds. see. I had the privilege to meet with the Iredell County on Aging. They invited me to come down. They have a monthly meeting at the Baptist Church down here, Troutman First Baptist. They invited me to come just to speak about development, and I had a lovely time speaking with a group of people there. And they asked me if I could do that annually, so hopefully that will become something that I do. And I had some good questions, and we had some lively conversation. And again, just to reiterate what Emily said, we did have our third grade field trip this morning. We had really nice weather. In the past, we've done that in the spring. I think it was actually hotter today than it was in June last year when we did it. And I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for taking the time to come out and welcome all the kids. So thank you.
I wasn't sure how many of them were vying for the mayor's office, so I felt like I needed to be there. So I felt like
I just have a couple questions for Director Hare.
I can answer them for you.
I have a feeling that the chief's answers will be a little bit more stern than the ones I'll get from him. Right. You had mentioned some of the plans are starting to come to fruition on Wakefield, but you didn't mention anything about the retail section. Is there no progress being made?
We have not seen anything on the retail portions yet.
Sure. Okay. And just more of a refresher than anything, because it's been a while since we passed that and had that very, very long meeting, but mostly my fault. But most of them are, right? Right. But when it comes to the trails, you see some plans are starting to come, and I know that we had made a discussion that we were going to carve out a piece right above the pond, I believe just north or northwest of the pond.
The trails will run entirely through the entire project.
Right.
But once completed, because we did not want to take anything on at the time without conferring with Parks and Rec and Justin Mundy for finance, they did not pledge a certain quantity of acreage, but yes, that is still the intent. That pond area and everything south of it would wind up being a town amenity if we so choose to accept the burden of creating something out of that.
Sure. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Town Manager, that was the donation of land that we're discussing. Am I correct?
No, sir.
Oh,
That's a separate parcel.
okay. It's still the 19 acres, am I?
It's 14, but
14, okay.
right there about. But yes,
Gotcha.
that's a separate
Okay.
block that Councilman Oxer speaking.
I was talking about a much
Correct.
smaller one. Yeah.
That answers my question also. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The police department for the month of October, their calls for service, we answered 416 calls. That was a 40, so far year to date compared to 2022, we're up 41% on calls for service, which is natural with, more people moving here. So I would like to, take a moment though to thank, for the incident that occurred last Saturday. I want to publicly thank some of our officers. Lieutenant Payne had worked all day that day, a 12-hour shift, came back in and worked till about 1 in the morning, and then had to come back the next morning at 6. Sergeant Steichleather, Patrol, Officer Morales, they came in and they are not on call. They don't get paid to be on call. We called needing people over the weekend, and they came in and worked to help out. And I'd really like to thank the North Carolina SBI. They've had at times 7 agents here with us, and those guys have been working 15, 16-hour days. Today, them and Sergeant Jones are currently on probably hour 14 today, and they're still currently out working, doing things. And without their help, it would have made everything, a whole lot more hard on an agency of our size. I truly appreciate that. I think that we'll be able to provide some more information, hopefully tomorrow, as things progress overnight. But I also want to thank you, Mr. Harris, for your support for the police department on your time on council. It's been a pleasure working with you. On those things, we also have 3 recruits currently in BLET, the academy, and we anticipate all 3 of them will graduate. We'll have a 100% graduation rate. which is pretty successful for most departments to be able to do that. And I also like to tell the community when there's issues or you have a problem or something you can report, we want to hear about those things. And as our calls increase and when issues are reported to us, sometimes we have to take and prioritize. Anything that's a higher threat to public safety, lives, such as sometimes we'll get traffic complaints about minor things that are city ordinance violation, but then complaints about speeding, which increases wrecks and the injuries in wrecks. We have to address those. So if you talk to us about something and you don't see an immediate response, it's not that we've forgotten about it. It's just we're having to prioritize, making sure we're still answering our calls and working on things, and we'll get to everything. Some of our things we work aren't always visible. We do have a problem with complaints about trucks, the dump trucks ignoring the truck routes. Some of it's because of things DOT's done that makes it harder for them to get to their sites. But we're also working on things in the background that we can work with developers as developments, start to let the contractors and trucking companies know, where not to go, so that maybe we can handle that on the front end before it, continues to become a nuisance. But if you guys have any questions, happy to answer them.
I just wanted to say, oh, Paul, you here to say something?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Several months ago, a citizen had mentioned to me about the speeding in the Inglewood community, and your staff went right out there and sat and started watching the traffic. And I think yesterday, somebody in Inglewood, they texted me and said, "We're getting speed bumps." So they were so excited. So thank you to everybody who had something to do with that. They're appreciative of the town caring about them and their children out playing, and them, period. People speeding through, anybody can get hit or hurt.
Yeah.
So thank you to everyone who helped to make that happen.
You're welcome.
Josh, can you just very capsulize, you mentioned about the 3 officer recruits, I guess you would say. Can you go over that program, just, very brief for the audience, refresher for the council, what's involved there?
So when we hire them, they go through the process. They go through the same process that a sworn officer would to get hired here has to go through, which includes taking a physical fitness test, a written test, interview boards, a very in-depth background investigation, psychological evaluation, medical exams. They go through all of that. Then they also have to go take tests to, measure their reading comprehension levels, and they have to pass at a certain level. Then we agree to, we'll hire them as a recruit, and they make about $9,000, $10,000 less, salary annually at that time than they will once they're sworn. And then so we're paying them, and they go for 16 weeks through a community college at Mitchell. And it's a very paramilitary program. Start off, they do PT, running, push-ups, all of that, a lot of intense training in legal issues, law, evidence collection, report writing, defensive tactics, firearms, driving, and they have to take tests every week. You can only fail 5 tests, and any test you fail, you have to make up that test. So, a lot of recruits, every department, there's, some people just aren't great test takers, and it ends up, you have some failures. And once they finish all of those tests, they then have to take the state exam for North Carolina, which is a test on everything you've studied, starting in, for right now, they started in August. They'll take the state exam in December, and they have to pass that. And then they get sworn in as an officer, and their salary increases, and they'll go through the field training program that's 12 to 16 weeks, riding with another officer, which then starting in January, the program is, North Carolina is adding more hours to it. So you will start in January and will not graduate until almost August now, whereas before you would graduate in May. So it's we're increasing the amount of training our officers are getting at the front end.
How long do they have to be with Troutman, as a police officer before they decide to rather, this is not for me, or, I can greener pasture somewhere else? Well, is it a year or 2 years they have to be with us? If they leave sooner, then they have to reimburse the town for.
Yeah, they sign an agreement to work here for a minimum of 2 years before, if they leave, they're agreeing that they would compensate the town, depending on when they leave. If they leave at some point during the academy, it's a minimal amount, whereas if it's after they graduate, it's a greater amount, and it depends on how long they've worked. There's things in there that if, they have a uncontrolled situation, like a spouse has to move and they have to move, or, medical issues, health issues, things like that are unavoidable and beyond their control, we aren't going to seek that. But it's mainly so that we're not paying for them to go. They work here for a little bit and then they go to another department. Those are the ones that we would end up, hey, you've signed this agreement, we need reimbursement. So it's a good program. We've had one that went through already and graduated, and then now we had these 3.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to add one thing also, that I've had some citizens and some residents, this is really not, it's a safety, more of a safety issue, that we're still continuing at our future agendas and future meetings to look at safety crosswalks and speed control, speed bumps, slowing devices. So it'll take some time, but we're looking at other areas where we're going to improve there also.
Yeah, just like Eastway, we talked about it. We had a lot of complaints there. Our officers could go out and do radar and LiDAR, which is a laser-based speed measurement. They could write, as long as they weren't on calls, if they were sitting out there, they'd be writing tickets nonstop because of how fast everybody was going. Most officers give some, they're not writing somebody for 1 mile over. And hopefully the speed bumps are going to help us because the enforcement was not seeming to really put a dent in it, and we don't know why. I think some of it is they were cutting through once this new light was added to try and beat traffic up through here.
But there are other areas. I know citizens have spoken to us that eventually we'll get there, and I think everybody will be happy.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Just to extend that conversation, we have several areas that are identified. The contractor that we use that is doing the work for us, I would just like to say it's not as simple as somebody saying, hey, these cars speeding in my neighborhood, go put a speed hump or a bump up. As you all know, we've talked before you several times in the last couple of years about different options and speed calming devices or traffic measures through the police department. It takes data. Also, if it's state roads, we can't do anything about those. That is up to North Carolina DOT. But even though we have some now on West Avenue, Brown Street, and Northeast Way, there's an additional speed table coming from the Fit Trail. And just like the mayor mentioned earlier about our traffic issues, a lot of these things are multi-departmental, such as the greenway systems, nature trails, fit trails. All of that falls under Parks and Rec. Public Works gets involved with street maintenance and things of that nature. Police department gets involved with what measures have they tried. If they're aware that they're there, they may put the speed trailer out to determine the issue is not as bad as somebody's claiming it to be. We have one particular resident that calls us about 5 times a year every year and swears that these people are running 80 mile an hour in this 25 mile an hour neighborhood. We have had the trailer there. We've had speed officers there looking for it. We've never found it. Not saying that the neighbor is wrong. It's just if it's an isolated incident like that, there's not a whole lot we can do in some of those circumstances. Again, I stress, I'm not saying he's wrong for what he saw, but for us to take drastic measures of speed humps and tables, then there has to be a lot of data through the multiple departments that determine what that is. So just like the speed table that will go up here from the Fit Trail to the Greenway, that actually falls under the Parks and Rec department and the concerns that's there. So sometimes when the citizens call, and I apologize, it's like, well, who do I tell? It needs to get to this one or that one. But we are addressing them. There are more speed humps and tables to come, as you said. I know we have, to Council Lady Harris's comment, we started work in Inglewood at a 4-way intersection up there, and the contractors got pulled off because of an emergency, even though they have some asphalt ground already, the speed humps are not there. So we don't want the citizens to think, well, they did a little bit here and they didn't finish. They have not finished, and we're aware of that, but they will be back to address that hopefully first of this coming week, and then we will get these other areas. But just like the speed table, for example, coming out of the Fit Trail, some people may assume, hey, you just put it out there, a little bit of asphalt and it's good. It is not that simple. ADA compliance to come from an area to where people could be in a wheelchair, walkers. We have several citizens who use walkers to exercise and rehabilitate injuries. If they're leaving that area, there is a little slip down into the street, but it is currently ADA compliant. But once we put the speed table in, the asphalt has got to be a certain height, of course, but then we have to adjust the concrete on the Greenway side, as well as the concrete on the Fit Trail side. We also have to make sure that there's drainage so that water coming north and south of the street can still flow because the new asphalt hump there. So I apologize for the long explanation, but it seems we all, you elected officials and staff, are criticized constantly because we're not explaining in full detail everything that we're doing and why. But that hopefully answers a little more questions about the speed bumps and speed calming devices that we will be installing. All of them, to Council Harris Lady's point, we have already got signs installed in some of these places, even though the hump is not there. Just coordinating the different departments that do those things, we wanted to make sure the signs was up. But even the one on Northeast Way Drive, even though the signs are there saying speed bump ahead, people were still hitting it at whatever miles an hour. So the police department went and put a cone out there until it can get painted to help visualize, hey, there's something different in the middle of the road, because citizens in general are not reading the signs that are there to tell them that there's something ahead. Having said that, we have received our bill from the sanitation. They have had a dramatic increase. Justin Mundy is talking to them. It's even larger than what they had told us they would possibly bill us to. So I can't say for public consumption, but want to make you all on council. We did get the first bill. We're trying to confirm the way they billed. They have not honored how they said they would make us aware or anything of that nature. And bluntly and publicly, I'm disappointed in the communications that you say one thing, don't follow through with it, and then we get a bill at this point that's about 200% higher than what we were paying. It could be 3 times higher. So that's definitely not what they had forewarned us. And every citizen in their town, some have already taken to social media because of the letter I issued stating that we as a town are jacking their rates up. Has nothing to do with the town. It has to do with the vendor that we're using and what their business practices are. But we have been and will continue interviewing others, and we'll be doing a bid soon to find out who wants to be our sanitation carrier. The town is not determining those fees. It's the vendors that will perform the service. Likewise, I would like to put extra emphasis on, for those that enjoy our recycling part of what we do in service, most of our citizens are not recycling properly. And that too will have a huge impact on our fees going forward, that if some citizens keep choosing to use the recycle bins as another trash can, that has an exponential cost to us to have it to be searched and separated when it goes to the facility. But we are working on that, and we'll continue to try to get the best cost option along with service going forward. I'd like to echo what Emily and both Lynn said about the 3rd grade field trip. As the mayor knows, we had only one young man last year who even took pictures in the mayor's chair saying, I'm going to be mayor someday. I unfortunately could not stay here today, but I think that is very much, as Emily said, a vital thing that we do for our community. Some people may look at these, oh, they're just 3rd graders, but many of us in the room here were 3rd graders at Troutman Elementary School. And had this program been back then, who knows what seed it could have planted. But several of the kids, Austin is not going to have a job soon. When they found out that you could make money by mowing grass, there's several that's like, hey, that's my job. I hate that for the education system because they don't need it. I'm just going to mow. But it was a fabulous experience with staff from the feedback that I've got so far. I would also like to notice, as you all can tell, it seems like each month we have a different focus on a different department because one particular department wound up in the news and or comments from the community and or just simple observations from you all. I would like to thank all of our staff, and as we have discussed several times, we never know when somebody sees us. We got a card for some citizens recently about our administrative staff and other employees that are always kind and courteous as they are out doing their daily exercise, and how wonderful it is to be here. So for all of those, I would like to say thank you. We never know which department is going to need to respond to an emergency or be accessible to our community. I would also like to thank Councilman Now as he joined me to meet with Mayor-elect Chris Carney down in Mooresville. He already has some ideas to connect our two boards together. Mayor Young also met with Mayor-elect Carney, and I look forward to our councils and their commission being able to do some things in the future along with plans of you all and theirs. It seems that they certainly are merging, and we are hoping to do at least one meeting to where both councils and commission are meeting together in unison to discuss issues and our future partnerships. So I'd like to thank you all for that. A reminder for everybody, we are closed tomorrow. Just as Councilman Oxer said, it's one of the best holidays of the whole year, even though you don't get time off for it normally, but it's Marine Corps birthday. And for all my fellow Marines out there, Semper Fi. If you all will, look over to the wall over there. I attended a veteran ceremony this morning at West Iredell High School. If I understood First Sergeant Hooker correct, this was the 39th year that West Iredell has recognized veterans in a ceremony. The youngest two veterans are active military, I'm sorry. The two youngest, 17, 18 years old, still in high school, but they have already joined as reserves, and they were there today. The oldest one was a young man that will turn 101 years old in a couple weeks. But there were lots of veterans there, and I appreciate them. But that art was the best 3 out of over 60-some different posters that the ROTC candidates took time to draw and recognize all of us veterans. And as somebody there said, as negative and sarcastic as a lot of people appear to be this day and time, by stating we as veterans fought for a country of freedom and it's going to pot, basically, I disagree. If you take your time and look at what some of these young people are doing, some of the third graders that was here today, several of those students at West Iredell High School, how they treated veterans there with kindness and respect, we definitely have hope for our future, and a lot of these young people that will be our future leaders are much appreciated. I would encourage everybody that if you have time, talk to a young person about what the future could hold for them and certainly for us, because they will be the ones left to make sure we go on to the pastures correctly. Next thing I would like to talk about is on Paul Hinkle. Thank you for what you said about all of us raising the funds. In the 3 years, soon to be 3 years that I've been here, I think we're a little over $20 million that we have been successful and making sure that our legislators are aware of our needs for the town, and that money goes a long way. I don't think that I or anybody else needs special accolades for that. However, as the mayor appropriately said earlier, these are the first times that we have went and championed our cause on those levels, This year was the highest award ever, but the last 3 years is the only monies we have ever received from the state. So I do thank you for recognizing us, but again, I also thank several of council members, Mayor, Councilman Harris, and Councilman Now, this year in particular, and making sure that we drove home the point. While we're very appreciative of all the money received previous, we certainly have a lot more needs. And I don't know that some of the citizens out there understand when it's $14 million, that's more than the whole year's annual budget. If it's just for public works, that's about 4 years' annual budget. So for all those that wish to complain about the fees, we certainly are trying to be mindful. I'm doing the job you all tasked me to do, to find grants, to find money, to find something to keep our tax rates low. And in closing, I too would like to thank Andrew Ventresca for all of his work on our mobility plans, not just for vehicles, but also for our pedestrians and bicycle plans. We are in the driver's seat on being progressive, as Mr. Cass said earlier, so we're getting in front of it. We have had plans for years, but we are now able to put what I would say go to second gear on the plans so that it is out there. We have had plenty of community meetings asking for public input at different times. Most of them, quite frankly, are poorly attended. But the ones that are directly impacted, there have been few that have showed up there, but our plans only get better with professionals doing them, and I would like to thank Andrew and Lynn Hare for what they have done and bringing this to you all for approval. That's all I have unless you all have, one final thing I forgot. The Rotary meeting this week on Election Day, Emily and I went and spoke to the Rotary Club and gave a general overview of some things that was happening with downtown ideas and goals, going back, as Councilman Harris has told several people, to our 2018 plan. A lot of folks hear one sentence or one paragraph that's in the press, the town bought this property, and some are asking, why? And the simple answer is revenue. If we can buy properties now that return revenue and will pay for themselves without it being an expense that you have to do 10 or 15 years from now for a new street or a new plan or putting the plan into effect, if you buy them at that time, they're tear downs and you don't get that money back. So I do appreciate you all as council for having the vision to follow through the plans, invest in money and loans to where tenants are paying the taxpayers back for the property that is there. So if and when the near future, whether it be 10 years, 15 years, some of those properties on Wagner Street become a reality and to need to make that downtown area from Wagner walking only, then they will have been paid for by tenants. And it's not something that you buy today and tear down 6 months. The passport office, as we said Monday, is doing very well. So far this year, as Justin verified this week, just tad under $30,000 in revenue. I cannot understand why any citizen would have a complaint with why we would have a passport office if it's generating revenue from those people who want the service and it's not a burden to taxpayer. But as I said earlier, we kicked Lou out and put him down there because we need space. We certainly have people put everywhere. The planning and zoning department is next door into a house that is slated to be a tear down if and when we ever get a town hall building built. And I won't say if, but when the new town hall is there, because we need the space for the services that we offer our citizens. The Parks and Rec house is Parks and Rec office, I'm sorry, as Emily mentioned earlier, is nearing completion. It is not open to the public yet. We still have some things to do down there, but already her and her staff, for something that will be a permanent fixture to the town, it is absolutely very nice as compared to buildings that we would only be in temporarily. It does not simply make sense that we would spend a large amount of money for a house that we know we're going to tear down in 3 to 6 years versus a house that we know is going to be utilized for the next 20 to 30 years because of what it is. And I appreciate all of you all for that vision too. We have had several compliments from the citizens on how well the Parks and Rec House looks, and they're looking forward to be able to use it for community meetings and et cetera. Thank you very much. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Wyatt? I failed to mention Jessica's birthday, so happy birthday. I did hear that, staff. I'm sure you'll be rained with all kinds of presents when you leave.
And you just take the day off tomorrow.
I think it's, what, 22 or 23 years old, right? Okay, I was one or the other, I couldn't remember.
Great. Again, thank all the staff for their updates. It's always helpful. But it's also I don't know how there's enough hours in the day that you all do all the things that you do for the town. And so, again, we appreciate that. Council, we still have at least one item to do, and that's to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A3 to consult with our attorney. Is there a motion?
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made. Receive a second. Mr. Wyatt, who do we need to remain in the room?
Just the attorney.
Okay.
And, clerks and counsel.
Okay, great. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you coming tonight.